Greetings in Christ. My name is Bishop Nectarios, and I am a bishop of the Orthodox Patriarchate of Nations. So, I wanted to talk to you because coming up soon is going to be the end of the year. And it's been a long and fairly brutal year. And I know we're all tired. I know that we've all gone through so much. We've been isolated from each other. There's been a massively divided election where there have been race riots and plagues, and it almost seems like biblical Egypt. And a lot of people are sitting there going, how much more can I take? How do I provide for my family? Am I going to get the money necessary for this or that? Politicians are acting like children. The churches are closing in spite of their own mission, of their responsibility to provide the Eucharist, regardless of conditions. And, you know, there have been some blessings this year too, but they're harder to see because we don't often think about things that go bad. Or, excuse me, we don't often think about things that go well because if it's not broke, don't fix it. But the bad things weigh pretty heavily on us. So, I wanted this to be kind of inspirational instead of discussing a church topic or, you know, um, my background in cooking or any of the other things I have either education in or practice in. I wanted this video to instead be something that was inspirational. A lot of people are pretty convinced that 2021 is going to be a giant train wreck on fire and that we're going to be standing on the tracks as the thing goes off the rails. Um, that doesn't necessarily have to be. We are, in large part, not in control of anything, but we're in control of how we react to things, how we decide to be, who we decide to talk to, how we decide to love others, how we decide to allow others to love us. These things are ours, and we can decide for ourselves. I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, I'm not going to do this or that. Whatever that might be, that's for us to make the decision. 2021 might be rough too, but we get to make the decision. I don't think I'm going to allow 2021 to go the same way that 2020 did. So I know that you're tired, and I know that you're sick of all of this, and I know that there are some of you who would just rather leave and not come back. I know all of this. I know there are people who are so angry about what's going on that they are tempted to become violent. I know people who feel throughout this whole thing like they just wish this would stop and we could go back to situation normal, the real normal, not the fake new normal that they're trying to push on us, but real normal. And maybe there's that opportunity. Maybe we have the opportunity to go back to normal. I don't know. The plans for the kingdom of God are not in my possession. What I do know is that this year was brutal. And in the year coming, I have to make some reservations myself. You know, what's going on in my life. And as I look at these concerns, I start to see that in large part, most of my pain and most of my fear and most of my anguish are caused by several issues. Number one, my prayer life slips a little. And I can already hear the atheists and the agnostics rolling their eyes. But generally speaking, Google it. For a Christian, prayer life is essential. The longer a Christian goes without prayer life, the more you're going to start to see them become moody, irritable. They're going to start to engage in sinful behavior. And that prayer life really helps bleed off a good deal of the stress, fear, and tension that Christians undergo. And if you start sacrificing that because this thing or that thing is happening and you're in panic mode, like a lot of us have been, it becomes challenging, strongly challenging, to gain that rhythm back to our lives. So for this coming year, I have a couple of resolutions that I'd like to put in place based on this process of self analysis, and I'd encourage you to do the same. I'm going to increase my prayer life. During this next upcoming year, it is my intention to correct an issue that I brought with me from the old Catholic faith. I was professed as a contemporary monk, not a traditional one. And when the church accepted me, it was with the understanding that I would correct that, and I intend to fully. I'm looking to found a monastery in Wyoming, and I want to establish, or at the very least begin, a fund for that. I found a great piece of land. My brother in Christ found it for me. $7,500 for an acre and a half. Good piece to start with, and we can always expand from there. I'm very excited about this. It's in the affordable range. Now is the time when we can decide, because I've had the dream of establishing a monastery in Wyoming for quite a long time, and there's always seemed to be some sort of issue that prevents that from happening. So that's going to be a big part of what it is I'm doing. As my life progresses, as my family starts to understand the path that my life is taking, I'm a single father. My son will live at the monastery with me. And as we start to bring in monks and nuns and other things to either live at the monastery or work at the monastery, we're going to see a capability to expand. I mean, really, right now in Wyoming, this is a mission. It's a very tiny community with only a few families that attend, and very few of them attend regularly, and we're just cranking the wheels to get started. This is going to grow. The monastery will have the opportunity to take care of the homeless when it's fully realized. It'll have the opportunity to help people who need a place to stay. There's so many things that are on the books that will be a great help to people who need it. But right now, there is either nothing in place, or what is in place is insufficient. And it's not just in this town, but in a number of other towns in Wyoming as well. And that needs to be corrected. The homeless need a place to stay, especially during winter, because they will freeze to death. The hungry need to eat. The people who need to be clothed need to be clothed. People need to be given bread, work, and dignity in order to feel like people. And that's always been a big part of my life. Interestingly enough, the idea for that came from a movie which is a favorite of mine called Shoes of the Fisherman by Anthony Quinn, who is the main actor in it, not the director. It is a great movie. If you ever have the chance, you should check it out. It's an older movie. And the idea of bread, work, and dignity is so basic and simple. But if you think about it, you take any man and you take away his ability to work, and that man feels like less of a man, or his ability to feed his family, or his ability to live with dignity. And sooner or later, he's going to feel like less than what he really is. And that's true for everyone, man, woman, even children. Children have a responsibility to go to school, to learn, to do chores, whatever. And without that kind of structure, without that kind of development, and without guidance, they start to feel lost. So, regardless of age, regardless of gender, it becomes a matter where if you don't have something that helps you contribute or grow, you start to feel like you're spinning your wheels. If you don't have a way to eat, people become beasts. If you don't have, basic dignity, it is possible to maintain your dignity even in the worst of circumstances, but it's enormously challenging. And it doesn't always work. There were stories in the concentration camps in Nazi Germany of individuals who maintain their dignity in horrific conditions, caring for other prisoners at the expense of their own lives, taking the place of people who were destined to be executed so that they could live longer. And this attitude of selflessness would go a long way in helping the United States if we could simply go, I'm going to think of other people at least as much as I think about myself, if not more. But selflessness is a hard pill to swallow because, as I've covered in previous videos, in this country, you're encouraged to be selfish. You're encouraged to screw other people over so that you can get ahead. And in the end, what's going to happen is you're going to be alone. Because you've screwed so many people over to make small, tiny gains in your life that are quickly spent. That you're going to have nothing and nobody because no one's going to want to take the risk that you're going to screw them over. Because fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame, on me. And is that really the way you want to live? Now is the time. Now is the time. The stimulus checks are coming. For those of us who have the option to take that money and put it on something, improve the lives of others around you as well as yourself. Take the time to listen to someone who's been in lockdown for too long and their depression is starting to get to them. You might be the person that saves them from suicide. You have the opportunity to contribute. And maybe if we can start to bring a little bit of peace and love, I'll stop hearing so many people talking about revolutions and resistance and all this stupid talk. Because what that really is people feeling hopeless and people feeling alone. It's people feeling like they do not matter. That's a loss of dignity. It's people feeling like their voice is no longer heard by those in power. That too is a loss of dignity. And if men feel ignored or worse, forgotten for long enough, sooner or later they're going to start making noise to draw attention to themselves. And that's not necessarily a bad thing because bad things happen when people start to feel forgotten. And it's better that you raise your voice and be heard and accounted for than you say nothing and just let it fester. It is always better to try to bring peace to people than to try to encourage war. It's easy to encourage people to be violent and cruel, but it's very, very challenging to try to encourage people to just be kind to each other. Because everybody expects that there's a catch, a hook. You do something nice for someone else. I don't want to accept your charity. Why? Because you're sinful and full of pride? Is that really the legacy you want? You're too prideful to accept the help of other people when you need it? And it never ends, does it? It just never ends. The stupidity that I hear about on a daily basis is just breathtaking. The cruelty of other people is breathtaking. The anger I hear about from other people is breathtaking. It lacks love. It lacks any kind of respect. And that's something, too, that you can change starting this year. Now, how would you do that? Simple. You start with small things. You don't try to change a pattern that you've entrenched overnight. That would be like going cold turkey off of hard drugs or smoking. You're literally fighting your own body and brain. You start with small things. You start to disrupt the patterns and behaviors that you put in your life. And you come up with a simple goal, like maybe you don't want to yell as much. Or maybe you would like to be a little more kind to a person that you've not been very kind to. So you say, this is what I want to do. And then when you see an opportunity, you do it. And if you catch yourself doing this thing that you don't want to be doing, instead of bashing yourself and kicking the crap out of yourself, instead acknowledge gently that you've fallen off course, redirect yourself back on course, forgive yourself for making the mistake, and focus on what you're going to accomplish in the future. And the reason being is that if you start beating on yourself every time you make a mistake, what's going to happen is sooner or later you're going to hit a wall where you're going to start saying, well, what's the point? I can't do it anyway, because the feedback has been overwhelmingly negative. Instead of saying, I made a mistake, it's okay to make mistakes, I'm going to get back on track, I'm going to keep going. Sooner or later, as you start to condition your mind to accept this new behavior, whether it is to be more loving, whether it is to work harder at your job, whether it is to spend more time with your wife and kids, this is going to benefit you in the long run. And it all starts with a resolution that something needs to be worked on or improved or, whatever. Maybe you are a businessman and you've decided that you want to take a course and learn how to be even better at business. Or maybe you're a bit of a tyrant and you've decided, I don't want to treat my employees like crap anymore. I'm going to focus on being just a little bit kinder to them while keeping productivity high. Whatever. I can think of tons of examples if you give me enough time. But in the end of it, I want you to consider what you can accomplish. And really, that's limitless. Our society is starting to believe that it's not, you can do anything. Well, sure, as long as you have the resources and the opportunity and you have the time and you don't have a family, sure, you can do anything. But that's really not accurate, is it? Because you can do anything. If you look, there is stories of single parents becoming doctors. I read one story about a homeless man, born homeless, and what he did, and this was quite clever, I think, was he got himself a gym membership. And he would go to the gym and shower and get dressed in work clothes and then go to work. And he saved up his money and he moved from the streets into an apartment. And then he upgraded his job. And he slowly built a life for himself. He went to college off of his own personal ambition and drive and made it work. He made it happen. And he did it because he didn't think about all the things that were preventing him from succeeding. He thought about what he could do right now. For example, my goal is to establish a monastery. Well, in order to do that, I'm going to have to establish a fund, which means I'm going to have to open a bank account, which means I'm going to have to start raising money. Maybe I have to bake cookies and sell cookies. Maybe I have to, fruitcakes and beer and a lot of that stuff are traditional ways that monasteries, which are self-supporting, earn enough money to keep the lights on and the monks fed and whatnot. And that is no mean feat either if you think about just how much is necessary. A lot of these monasteries are fairly large. And after the thing is done and I have to raise money for it, then I got to find someone to build this thing. Or I got to find someone to sell me the land that I want or whatever. Step by step by step by step. Break it down, small steps. Small steps are easier to chew. If you try to take the whole project on at once, you're going to get overwhelmed. And whatever it is your project is, I hope that in this new year, you seize the moment. And I don't want this to sound like some cheesy infomercial where some idiot gets up there and says, seize the day, for the 50 millionth time in a row. Thank God they got rid of those things. And, you look at it and you think, and that's that. Instead, I want you to honestly think, not what would bring you greater success financially, what would bring you greater happiness, what would bring you greater peace, what would bring you greater connection to God, or maybe your family, or whatever it is that you need to work on the most. Because when you take your weaknesses and you turn them into strengths, your strengths only become more powerful. I told folks that I used to be in the restaurant business. And later on, I found out, because I catered a whole bunch of weddings, as I entered the priesthood, I realized now I have the ability to cater weddings, to perform weddings, and I have a friend who is a travel agent, so I can even get your honeymoon booked for you. And I thought, why didn't I put those pieces together before? Who would have thought I would have had those resources? There's endless ways you can improve yourself, and 2021 is that time. You've gone through 2020 and you've been tempered. You are stronger now than you were then. That's really what this is all about, in my opinion. You are being tempered so that you can do better, do more, do it well, and bring yourself peace. And a lot of people downplay that. I can sleep when I'm dead kind of stupidity. Yeah, you can, but after you find that you've worked for, 40, 50 years and you're a broken wreck and a shell of a man, is that the best life you could be living? What if you did what you love and found a way to earn an income doing it instead, and you spent 40 or 50 years doing what you love instead of working what you hate, and then in your spare time doing what you love? It's worth a shot, right? I mean, I'm taking a leap of faith doing this YouTube channel. It isn't like I'm growing leaps and bounds, but I'm taking the shot now and I'm giving a voice to what's inside of me with every video. None of this is prepared. None of this is scripted. Although I might start doing bullet points so I can stay on track on videos. And I might take some classes on video editing so I can make better videos. But this is a leap of faith for me, because getting up here talking to all of you about things that I hold very dear to my heart, things of my faith, things that I'm passionate about. And that by itself, there's no guarantee that this YouTube channel will ever do anything other than just sit there with tons of videos on it that no one watches. Although statistically, I'm not doing terrible views-wise. And I'm just getting started. If I can take a leap of faith, so can you. So that's it for today. If you're just joining us for the first time, please hit the like and subscribe button. And if you have a goal, a dream, something that really drives you, pushes you, leave a comment below and tell me about it. What makes you get up at night and think, man, this is going to be awesome? Well, anyway, that's all for today. Take care, God bless, and may you have the 2021 that you deserve.